Welcome back to the Unpatched Gaming Podcast, where we split skulls and make tapestries of body parts that look like horses. And
that was disgusting.
it was amazing.
But yes, we do those things.
Yeah, because now that we're men.
That was a shift. Welcome back to the Unpatched Gaming Podcast. That's one of your hosts. He kills people. And I'm an angry little boy. Welcome. We're talking about... it's a bit of a weird episode. Talking about three different things. So,
Norse. Talking about Norse.
Basically, just the North. Both two games that Zack and I love are getting sequels this year. One being Hellblade, Senua's Sacrifice. Hellblade 2 coming out later this year. Maybe. We have heard
probably not.
very little about it. And we've heard very little about God of War, but that's supposedly still getting a sequel this year. There was an odd statement that came out a couple days ago from, Cory Barlog, I think his name is?
Yeah.
And...
not Balrog.
Yeah, correct. He made it sound like maybe it was being delayed. Some speculation is saying that what he really meant was there's going to be more about it next month, with the E3 season. But hopefully both of these games do actually get a sequel this year.
Or whatever we call this season now.
Yeah. We'll probably still call it E3 season.
In loving memory.
But this... so Zack is playing Hellblade. I had played it before. I love this game. I'm playing God of War. Same for Zack. Played it. You've played it twice, right?
No. Not. I haven't finished it twice.
Oh, okay. But
I did 100% complete it the first time.
You go, dude. You go.
Love that game.
I will not be fighting the Valkyries for...
Dude,
those
Sigrinder, I forget her name. The chief
last
of the
one?
Valkyries. Wow, that's a boss fight. That is a boss fight.
Yeah, and there's some good boss fights in this game. But this episode also lined up with the release of The Northman. What's the guy's name? I forget the director.
Robert Eggers.
I love his movies. I've seen The Witch maybe 5 times. I've only seen The Lighthouse once, but an instant favorite. And Northman is...
You don't like me, lobster? It's got to be one of the best lines in movie history.
He's such an amazing entertainer. I love Willem Dafoe so much.
Yeah.
I've been seeing him a lot lately. I watched an interview with him just before... Nightmare Alley came out, and he was talking about his love for entertaining, how he kind of stays out of politics, doesn't really reveal too much of himself, and just picks roles that are fun for the love of the craft.
Yeah.
Anywhere from Jesus Christ to Green Goblin.
Yeah.
And then immediately after I didn't
Hopefully there'll
know.
be a crossover of those movies one day.
Oh yeah.
The Last Temptation of Norman Osborn.
And then I didn't know he was in Nightmare Alley. I didn't know anything about Nightmare Alley other than it was Guillermo del Toro, so I went to see it. And then he's amazing in that. And he's amazing in this movie. As brief as that time is.
Well, it's just funny. You throw him in a Marvel movie with, a lot of the hottest celebrities, all playing superheroes, and he chews every scene. You cannot look away from... He's a different tier of performer, I think. Not even a higher tier, just an entirely different function in this space of film than all these other people.
Yeah, I believe so. He's pretty easily one of my favorite actors, just for his love of everything he's doing. I love to see him anytime he's on screen, except for maybe Antichrist. But who knows? Maybe I love that as well. I'm confused.
So we have some mead.
Yes, we thought it was fitting to have mead
fitting.
this episode.
It was your idea. Very good idea. I've had this. So we have a local meadery that is kind of sold out a little bit. They do a lot of just kind of easy drinking stuff. They do a lot of carbonated things. They're still good, but their still meads are incredible.
And this is what I prefer.
Yeah, me too.
When I have I don't care to have something akin to a cider. I would put Austin East ciders and Meridian Hive in the same cooler every day. That's easy drinking for the crowd. They're very similar. This is mead.
Yeah. And this one's their best. I don't know if they make it anymore. I need to check, but I've had this in my
small batch.
I've had this for about 5 years. So we're popping this bad boy open. It's one of my favorites.
I didn't know that, Zach. This is really an occasion.
Yes, it is. It's a really good one, though.
Oh, so we have a third glass here to save some for your wife.
Yes.
No, you had a couple bottles, right?
Oh yeah, we've had
before.
multiple. I think we bought 5 or 6. But it's an Olali berry mead, which for the uninitiated, which includes myself, I don't even know what that is. But apparently, it's a large blackberry-like berry. Blackberry-like berry. That also, it basically has a lot more tannin.
Oh, that smells incredible.
It has more character than a blackberry.
This is going to be akin to a wine, right?
Yes, and still mead will have about the same percentage as a wine. It will be a sweeter wine typically. There are some wines that if they tasted more like honey, you could mistake for meads. So this is an incredible one. We also, when we finish this, have the backup mead. Just a classic. It's the one I used for mixing drinks. It's just called Odin's Skull. It's like it's over 20, almost 20% alcohol, right? That one.
That is 19.
Yeah, and it's you.
But you made the comment that it is aging quickly, so who knows? That could be 23 by now.
It's just eating away those sugars. It's very sweet.
I'm glad we're not filming this on camera because pouring with this long neck is really weird and awkward around the mics. Cheers.
Cheers indeed.
Oh.
Oh. Still fantastic.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is delightful.
That's my favorite mead I've ever had personally. I have never found one that beats
Oli
it.
berry, black currant wine, and additional honey.
Gotta have more honey.
Uh-huh.
And it definitely tastes like that.
Oh man, I could drink this entire bottle.
Right? I hope they still do it. When we have a little bit of, like, if you're on a little bit of a monologue, I'll quick check, see if they make it more.
Sure.
But we will both be monologuing because we did this episode a little differently. As you mentioned before, just wanted to re-clarify that I only played Hellblade and you only played God of War. So you got the, I guess, long end of the stick.
Yes, God of War is a little long in the tooth.
And I put 7 hours into Hellblade, you know?
So you finished Hellblade about 3.5 minutes ago. And I have not finished God of War. I was hanging out with Zach's family last night and hung out a little too long. So I have an hour left. I am right there at the very end. According to the video that I check in on to like track my progress. I occasionally pull up a YouTube video and just see.
Are you going to finish it tonight?
Yeah.
I mean, because that one's so...
In one sitting.
The story is so key to that game, you know?
Yes.
Like it's... And I love the ending.
If you want to talk about the ending, that's fine.
No. I will mention what I think is brilliant about it, but I won't go into detail. There's no need, really, to go into details.
Okay.
Everybody who knows.
Otherwise, there will be spoilers throughout this entire episode.
For both of these games.
And the movie. So we're just going to talk about the movie briefly, but if you want to skip
that...
But
it's crazy how relevant its ideas are to Hellblade. It's
really
really
they're
crazy.
So similar. I wish I would have had time to play Hellblade. But alas, I did not.
Yeah, let's dig into the Northman. Tyler, please tell me what you thought about the movie. I've been waiting.
You know, it's my least favorite of the three.
That's my favorite of the three.
Even more than the Lighthouse?
Yep.
Whoa.
Yeah,
I have to rewatch the Lighthouse.
We'll talk about why. It's for a very particular reason.
Now, that's a dumb way to start the conversation, honestly. That's the other two movies are irrelevant. This is a different movie and supposedly sort of what he wanted to make, right? He's been aiming to make epics, but it's difficult to make epics, and then if you don't respect that, you end up making Gods of Egypt and The Great Wall, and those are flops, and no one wants to see them. So, you know, he did his time, made a name for himself, got some respect, and then
got the budget
awesome
for an
epic. Now, I'd like to see what he does next, if he can go even further with like a Kingdom of Heaven sort of
That would be
budget.
Amazing.
That's an underrated movie, I think. It
I
might
agree.
have some problems.
I agree.
It's
I can think of better
in terms
epics,
of its there's few epics really on that scale.
Yeah.
And the ones we do have, the majority of the ones we have are nowhere near as good.
Yeah.
And in terms of the upper echelon of epics, it might not be the best, but it's in the upper echelon of epics.
I think. You know what's funny is I think there's a little bit of a tangent, but you know what movie I consider to be the kind of grandfather of the epic movie is the original 30s 10 Commandments.
Interesting.
And then, more importantly than that, the remake with Charlton Heston. From the same director. Same director remade this movie when the tech caught up. In fact, have you seen The Ten Commandments?
I've not, no.
It's one of the best movies I've ever seen.
Maybe I'll try to see it this month.
I mean, it's...
Alamo Drafthouse is doing this weird thing. What is it?
Yeah.
Holy Rollers is what the series is called. And they have The Big Lebowski. They have... what's that one with Matthew McConaughey just smoking weed in Austin?
Dazed and Confused.
Dazed and Confused. 10 Commandments. Midsommar. The Last Temptation of Christ.
Incredible.
None of these things are like the other.
I love it so much. But all that to say really quick that he opens the film explaining why he's remaking this movie. Like he literally, at the beginning of the film, he steps out in front of a red curtain and the director, Cecil B. DeMille, explains why he's remaking this movie.
Remaking the movie?
Yeah, because it was his movie he made in the 30s. He made a movie called The Ten Commandments.
Okay.
All the same stuff. But he remade the movie in the 50s.
In the 50s. Okay.
And he's like, he goes through why and why the story is so important, and it's really powerful, really moving. So I love epics. A lot of epics get unfairly and incorrectly, I'd say, compared to Lord of the Rings these days. Lord of the Rings I think there's something different to a fantasy epic than an epic.
I would agree.
I think that there's
even with something like Northman, which contains fantasy, I would not consider it a fantasy epic.
I agree 100%. A fantasy epic has it's built on the structure. I call it a bridge structure. So you have classic fantasy, and I'm talking Beowulf. I'm talking, all the way up through the 1800s style of fantasy, these old fairy tales, really rich stuff that's stuck around for a long time. And then you have Tolkien, who's kind of makes this bridge. He brings in modern storytelling, language and pacing, but he marries it to the same ideas. We're now on the other side of the bridge where everything has been modernized. Even the nature of the stories tends to not reflect what they used to, even in Tolkien. But now, even with that, I think that bridge does identify a divide. There's a modern pacing, a modern sense of character development, of completion. And Lord of the Rings has a lot of those things. Northman plays out exactly like watching the Odyssey. If you were to literally just watch the Odyssey, that's what's happening. Because it's, this thing is happening. This thing is happening. This thing is happening.
I wanted to mention that. The pacing, I appreciate really good pacing. The movie is, 2.5 hours? Didn't feel like it at all. And I just watched Stalker again for the 5th time. That's 2.5 hours as well. Feels like
5.
4 or 5.
Yeah.
Correct. Not to say it's poorly paced, but it
doing something
doesn't
very different.
have pacing. I think it just is and happens.
That's fair.
But
You're gonna call any movie just is. I feel like Stalker's the one.
Yes. Yeah, I could go on some tangents about that one. But that's definitely something I picked up on, was the rate at which every scene is moved forward.
Yeah.
It's really, really great. I didn't find myself once being like, come on, okay, we could do without this scene.
No.
Let's go.
Like, literally, he's sold into slavery and to his uncle.
Sells himself into slavery.
Yeah, sells himself into slavery.
Sacrifices himself.
Yeah. And he kind of goes and he's waiting. And they're doing some stuff, and then all of a sudden he just leaves one night and finds this shaman dude. The He Witch, which is a great name. It tells him to go find this sword. He just goes and finds this undead guy with a sword. He then fights the Draugr, and then it cuts back to him just standing in front of the Draugr, having never moved, and he just takes the sword. It's so good.
So what do you think, that the fight did happen and there's a weird time warp there? Or he just envisioned himself.
So this
fighting
actually touches on what I think the most beautiful balance this movie casts is these people, we have lost a sense of being able to see magic in the world. I've told you one of my favorite quotes of all time is from G.K. Chesterton, when he says, fantasy stories or fairy tales are wonderful because they say that apples are gold, trying to remind us of the first time we realized that they were green. Now we can explain so much, but that doesn't make it any less wondrous. That green apple could have been anything else, but it's that. and that's kind of the ideology of fairy tales, to bring the magic back to the world. So, in the movie, you have the Olga. Her name's Olga, right? Yeah. And you have her find this mushroom that she spikes everybody's food with, and it's shrooms, and they start seeing crap. That to them is a gift from the gods that has magical properties. I would argue that is still a thing. Just because we can explain how it works and why, that's still like magical and crazy, and that this mushroom,
that's something I've always believed. And if you've listened to the podcast long enough, you have probably pieced together that Zack and I are both Christian believers. We both go to church, though I don't think either of us are particularly typical.
No, not at all.
We're
very
well
odd.
thought in our reasoning for our beliefs, but that's something I've always questioned. Is we don't apply the logic of, oh, we know how this thing was created and therefore it was not created, logic to anything else.
No,
we don't hear
odd.
A song and be stricken by awe. The first time we hear Bach, or I like Vivaldi a lot.
That's fair. That's fair.
We are not stricken by awe and then learn how the thing happens and say, oh, well, it's just a song. We don't say that. We don't, finish sitting through a comedian's set and experience every little piece. A good comedian will do this. Introduce a concept in the beginning.
How about them airplane peanuts?
Keep poking things, back to that original concept, pulling things out from it throughout the set, and then in the last 20 minutes, just loop everything back around. And, you've just been overrun with joy and laughter, and then go home, figure out what sort of synapses happen and say, oh, well, it's just laughter. Who cares? We don't do that for anything else.
No.
Except when someone tries to talk about the magic in the world.
Yeah,
we just dismiss
odd.
it completely because, we know what a trip is.
Yeah. We know that we know the sun is just a star, It's the sun! Like, it's this glowing ball of light in the sky. It's crazy. And what I think the movie does really well is it never says magical thing is happening. It never says that. Anything that happens could be explained through a natural cause. But it also doesn't take the opportunity to then belittle the fact that these people believe that magic is happening. It very much thinks these things are married. The roots, the grass, these things that are very tangible and real, mundane even, have, it's the thing that makes a sword a legendary weapon. You know what I mean? This sword he finds, it's just a sword, but because that's the one magical thing that really happens is the guy can't get the sword. But that could have been the sword's stuck. You don't know, the sword's stuck in the sheath. But that's the thing that can make this thing of steel that just has this history magical. It's really, really powerful. And so I like that they don't use that to belittle, oh, look, these silly, old school pagans believed in all this crazy crap. It's fundamental to the construction of the world.
Which, all of that I think is telling of the contrast between the two games we're playing. Hellblade, very much in the vein of Northman, feels extremely similar.
Yes.
And then God of War is that modern fantasy epic you were talking about. There is magic everywhere. Even the magical gods say, explain things by, oh, it's magic.
Yeah, exactly.
Literally saying that. Would you believe me if I just said it's magic?
I probably would.
It is. They're so different. Yes, there is magic happening in Hellblade and in Norseman. It isn't magic to anybody. It's just the way the world works.
It's wondrous.
Whereas it's sold as magic in God of War.
Exactly.
I prefer the grittier style, the more realistic.
I would argue that's what, even though there is objective magic in Tolkien, I would argue that's the way he treats it. Because even though there is Gandalf lifting his wand or his staff and light bursts out. Like that happens, sure, but when you read the stories or watch the movies, all the power comes out of old places and things and events that had happened there. In the book, it goes into detail about why Merry stabbing the Witch King led to Éowyn being able to kill him. Because in the movie, they don't have time, which is totally fine. I understand. I love the movies. But she just stabs him like, I am no man. One of the coolest moments ever. But in the books, they take time to explain. So, all the way back when they started their journey, the Shire is near the north, which is where the lands of the north, which is where the Witch King used to reign and do his stuff. And so the men of that time built these weapons that could fight Nazgul. And along the way, they get caught by some wights, and they find this, like they're given these swords, like to keep, like little daggers. And that's the thing he stabs the Witch King with. And so all of the years of death and strife with the Witch King come to fruition in this little hobbit who just happens to find one of the blades that was forged for the purpose of trying to fend him off originally. And it says, I love you, Tolkien. It unknit, it stripped that invisible thread that knit his sinew to his will.
Oh my god,
it's so cool. But that way,
wow,
he became physical enough for her to kill him. But that's the power of those ancient wars and battles that were fought, all culminating in that moment.
Yeah,
that's the magic,
It's good stuff.
It's so good.
The Northman is good. We won't harp on it too much.
Okay, no, favorite kill.
Favorite kill. Dang. Listen, I like things like the Hannibal TV series.
Yeah, of course you do. It's fantastic.
Bodies on the side of the building, even though you only get to see it for a second. That's
like centaur bodies. It's great. My favorite
it's gross.
Is when
it's awesome.
Finally gets to kill the guy who he chopped the nose off of.
Oh yeah.
And he just pushes the blade right through him all the way. It's so clean. So good.
Yeah.
Oh, and of course, no movie is complete without naked sword fight on top of a volcano.
It was so cool.
Yeah, like
two silhouetted naked men fighting to the
at the
death.
peak of their physical prowess, fighting to the death on a volcano. It's just so awesome.
Amazing.
It makes no sense. Like, there's so many things that are like
It's the gates of hell. They had to go to the gates of hell to fight each other,
which is the best. I love it so much.
It's awesome.
I feel like Robert Eggers. He has this movie planned, and he's like, "So what inspired you?" I don't know. I just had a dream about these two naked dudes fighting on top of a volcano, and I was like, I should make a movie about that.
Now, how do I make it happen?
Yeah, let me make two.
What
really
leads
good
up? No, what
movies.
leads to a naked fight in a volcano?
Whatever he did, because it's amazing.
Yeah,
but I want to watch
good.
it again. I know right now it is my favorite right now of his, mostly because that's my check boxes.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like a lot of
both
that is my
other
check
movies
box.
are all of my check
exactly,
boxes.
and I love both those other. Well,
you don't like The Witch.
I like The Witch. I respect The Witch. I think it's a good movie. I love The Lighthouse.
Yes,
The Lighthouse is amazing. But yeah, this one's definitely more my speed. And watching again, I'm pretty sure it'll be pretty high up on the list for me. So
yeah, I did love it, every second of it. But again, those are just my sort of movies.
Tyler movies
all the way through. Well, let's move on here to our first game, Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice. What was this? 2017, I think. 2017. I think so. An independently published game. I wouldn't say indie. That has particular connotations. This is
very big budget.
Not a AAA studio, but they have been around the block many times, worked with all the major publishers, and wanted to test out some new tech that they had to see if they can churn out games pretty quickly and at a budget, but be on par with big AAA games. And in some regards, have well surpassed many AAA games. This is one of the best looking games ever. Probably up there with... not probably. It's up there with Red Dead Redemption 2 and Last of Us 2. I think those are the big three. in terms of presentation.
Yeah.
There's
And Red Dead 2
nothing
doesn't
else.
necessarily look like the faces aren't as good as Last of Us 2 or that kind of stuff. Red Dead, it's the whole package.
Yeah.
The snow, the mountains, the
being
way
able
it
to see
moves.
through somebody's nose with the sun shining.
Yeah, exactly. Just stuff like that.
Yeah.
What a fun game.
I'll play it one day, maybe. Let's be real. I might not.
Yeah, I mean, even if you just played it for 30 hours, like
I will pick it up if there's either a next gen update or a full release. Like,
I mean, 15 hours of my playtime was just poker, and 15 more was probably just hunting. Like, I didn't.
Sounds good.
It's great.
Sounds good. But let's move on to Hellblade, Senua's Sacrifice. Take it away, Zack.
Yeah, so this is my first time experiencing this game. I went in knowing only kind of its subject matter. That's pretty much all I entered with. I had no expectations for gameplay or anything. I didn't know. I left, just kind of to prepare anyone, I left with a deep respect, but not much excitement or joy at having played it. Like, it's not one that I'm going to think back on very often. It's not one that's going to sit on the top of my lists or anything. I respect so much what it did, and I had a good time most of the time playing it. But there's something that I would never call this game a bad game. I'd never even call it a game that fell short, because I know there are people who this game achieved everything they want out of an interactive experience and more. And what it sought to accomplish, it did tenfold. That is not what I come to games for, typically. Mm-hmm. So I have an incredible respect for it, and I would recommend it to many people. But personally, it's not a game I'm going to revisit. With that out of the way, I do want to mention that I think the only thing that I would say, knowing its goals, that I felt was a shortcoming, is I feel like it was a little bit... I don't know if it didn't trust its audience, or if they didn't have the time or maybe the talent in the writing team to bring this out. It felt a little bit on the nose throughout its runtime.
Okay.
I felt like it was very obvious, the allegory in place here, a little bit too heavy-handed in spots to really deliver. I think that if they would have stepped back from more of the allegory for what's going on and more just lean on the raw moments themselves and the fantasy happening, I think it would have been better. But it is an incredibly small complaint on what is otherwise pitch perfect for what it set out to do.
Yeah, it's been a few years since I've played it, and I don't remember picking up on that, but also I'm a dum-dum. Zack is not. So take everything he says with a grain of salt.
Yeah, please.
Because we're not on his level.
No,
not to
just
say that
take it
he's
with a grain of
incorrect,
salt, because I
definitely did not pick up on that. I did focus a lot on the moment-to-moment. The couple times where, again, full spoilers here, and this is not this game's not for the faint of heart.
Oh yeah, dude! When she starts screaming, sometimes
you're
just unsettled. Like
the couple times where she did try to kill herself. I think she does it twice in the game. Those really got to me. And then the ones where she starts like really letting herself go, letting the voices take over. That's good.
Even early on, when anytime the fire inserts area like kicks up and every voice is screaming at the same time.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just overwhelming. And both you and I had a friend who went through something that could be akin to this experience.
Yeah, I would say pretty similar.
Yeah. I don't, never officially diagnosed, but similar symptoms, similar results, and it's sad. So it does hit home a lot on those moments.
I definitely had to put it down a couple times because it got pretty raw. I guess we should sort of introduce the game a bit.
Oh yeah.
It is, set in a Norse setting.
But she's not Norse, right?
I think she is.
I couldn't pick up on that. I need to look it up. And this is something that it seemed like, because they kept calling him the Northman, and I couldn't figure out if that was like. And they say, oh, the Northmen believe in Odin, and the Northmen believe in this, as if they're someone else. And I know that's the guy talking, but I don't know if Senua is a part of the Northmen, but then I don't know. I couldn't really pick up on it.
Yeah, I
I'll look it
couldn't
up
tell
actually
you.
real quick.
Sure. So let's say she is for now. Zach will tell us whether or not she is. But she has a form of what we call today psychosis, but what they called, before modern medical advances, she was a witch. She was possessed by demons and could commune with the demons.
She's a Pict, which is Pict is a Scot, basically someone who would eventually become Scotland. Okay, so yeah, she's a Pict warrior from Orkney, which is actually where traditionally Morgana from the Arthur legend comes from. I read a lot of Arthur legends, guys. Love it. Arriving at the border of Helheim, goddess Hela. Yeah. So it looks like. Yeah. Okay. I don't want to take too much time here, but yeah, it looks like she's a Pict. I don't know if they count as Vikings or not, but I'm gonna go down this rabbit hole now. But yeah. Okay. Sounds good.
And
no, they don't, because the Vikings invaded. Yeah. Sorry, we're not gonna have a history lesson. Keep going.
Okay, yeah, let's not. So she is put to the stake after her mother is killed, because they think she's also a witch, or she died.
Her mother was.
What was that?
So one of the big twists at the end is her mother was burned alive by her father.
Yeah.
Right, because.
But she was also
a witch.
being burned alive by her father, right?
I don't know if I don't know what his plan for her was. It was really abstract. Like, it looked like he didn't want to. He kept telling her to conquer the darkness. Okay. I don't know if she was. I didn't get any.
I vaguely,
implications.
again, it's been a few years. I vaguely remember. I remember what you're saying there, where he tried to encourage her to fight it, but I vaguely remember that he was going to go through with it anyway, for the sake of the tribe.
Oh, but he didn't, right? Like, well, not.
Or she got away.
But she got away. Yeah. That's what
away.
I was. I thought you were saying that she was burned alive.
No.
Okay, yeah. That's what I picked up on as well.
Okay. And her
and his voice, her father's voice.
All the voices, man.
Oh, they're great. But for that one, like, so many games and movies have the deep, scary voice of the demon, like, and it just sounds so bad, but. I don't know what effect, the whole sound design, but what effect they put on his voice. It has that kind of vocal fry that you hear in like bass singers, but it's not arbitrary. Like, it cuts and clips. It's very short. It stops.
Oh,
it's
like
very specific.
I forget his name. The guy from The Witch.
Who plays?
He's in this game, in this movie as well.
The Black Goat. What's his name? I forget.
No, he's the father.
Oh,
in The Witch. I don't know his name. He might also play the Black Goat, but
that would be cool if he did.
Anyway, it's very much like his voice.
It's been a while.
All of the bassiness of his voice does that as well. Like, it cracks, but when it cracks, it pierces you. It's really, it's a very unique.
That's really accurate. Yeah,
a very unique kind of voice. So anyway, back to the introduction of the game. So she escapes. Also with the head of her boyfriend, who she's trying to bring back to life.
And it looks like, I don't know why, this is just my stupid nerd in me, but it looks like the face of the Silence from season 6 of Doctor Who the whole time she's carrying it.
Oh, I don't Doctor Who.
No, but it's pretty, yeah.
And the game starts where she's washing ashore to this island where she can deliver his head to a temple to resurrect him. That is her belief. And suffering from psychosis, she hears many, many voices in her head. You as the player maybe being one as well. And it has no UI. The UI is the various voices. They tell you about your health. They tell you about your surroundings, what to do next, where enemies are,
and sometimes
how to
they
attack.
Discourage you and put you down.
Yeah, sometimes they lie. Sometimes they often will put you down. And she has to fight these and try to figure out which ones are correct. As you mentioned, the sound design is impeccable in this game.
Oh,
you must play it with good headphones.
It's so good that when the like 1 or 2 times in the game where it's not pitch perfect, you go, oh, like, you notice it. Like, that's how perfect. I never notice sound effects or the way a river sounds or anything. I don't notice any of that crap when I play games. Well, that's not true, but you know what I mean. Like, it's
Very often.
Even the slightest, like, this does not sound exactly like reality, it stands out. Like, that's how good the sound design is in this game.
Yeah, it's really amazing. And you have to fight demons that are likely not real. You're just seeing them. And you go on this.
But that's again, it's
very linear.
They are
adventure.
real and they aren't. It doesn't matter. Like,
so we would definitely fall in that camp that just because you and I do not see it does not excuse the reality of our friend, or in this case, Senua.
Exactly.
It doesn't excuse that. It's happening because we sort of believe in other things as well. So yeah, it's real and it's not at the same time. Very linear game. The combat. I'd like you to talk about the combat because that's your biggest focus in games. It seems one of your biggest focuses.
Yeah. No, totally.
And
it definitely is.
It's the biggest
combat, boss
shortcoming.
fights.
Yeah, it's the biggest shortcoming of this game.
I disagree that it's the biggest shortcoming.
What?
I know. All
right, let's hear it.
The frequency at the end, definitely.
Yeah, they focus a lot on it. That trek through, I don't know where it is.
Helheim.
But, is it Helheim? Yeah, that makes sense.
Oh.
And then when you finally get to that temple and you're just on the platform and Zack was too good. So there's a scripted death moment that he was just did forever.
And the voices are telling you, stop, just give up. But I'm like, never, because that's what you've done the whole game.
Yeah. So he didn't give up. And finally I was like, I think you're just supposed to die, dude.
I did die. I didn't give up. I died. And yeah, it was good. But anyway, so the combat, I like Team Ninja a lot. I like what they do. I like their work. Combat was not the focus of this game. And even though it wasn't, it felt really good when you fought.
Yeah, it feels great, and it feels like Team Ninja, but it feels out of place given its frequency.
I agree. I think the frequency...
So the combat's not bad. Yeah, I just think being in this game is a fault. Not any combat. I'm not saying it should not have any.
No, and I think the pacing of the first 2/3 of the game, the way they split up puzzles, there's that part where you have to go through the 4 Trials of Odin where you don't have a sword, and then afterwards you fight a new enemy who's really tough. Like, it works, and it feels good. Maybe a little too frequent at the beginning, but...
And at the end, I don't recall it being super frequent at the beginning.
Rough.
But
the boss fight with Fenrir, though.
Which one's that?
The giant beast.
In the shadows?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the best part of the game.
Very good.
In terms of combat.
But after the first, say, 2/3 of the game, when all the puzzles have run dry, you have seen every enemy.
Oh, and they make you do the first basic puzzle again like 4 times at the end.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, dude, come on.
There's very little... Luckily, it doesn't overstay its welcome. It's just 7 hours. But even in that 7 hours, it is approaching overstaying its welcome because of the lack of variety in the last third of the game. They just redo a bunch of stuff.
Absolutely.
And the puzzles are easy enough, a little boring at times, but easy enough.
But they're also visually stimulating. Yeah, a lot of the puzzles.
Absolutely.
And, it's about perspective.
Which is why I don't say those are as big of a fault as combat.
Sure. I would say, again, though, the frequency of the same kind of puzzle, it's not like The Witness where it's doing something to your brain and they're throwing new mechanics in constantly and new rules. Mm-hmm. It's not like that. It's just the same puzzle in a different environment. And so the most common puzzle, you see a rune on a door, and you have to move through the environment to find where in the environment that rune is created. Sometimes it's obvious, and the puzzle is how you get over to look at it correctly. Sometimes it's not, and it's where's the rune. Some people have complained about this, from what I understand, but I never felt like tricked or cheated. Sometimes I felt tricked by like the environment, like not seeing this random staircase to the side.
Yeah, that's the puzzles themselves. I did not feel tricked by. I agree with that. There's a few things that are not totally apparent.
Yeah, and some of the environment's pretty big, and you're just like, what?
Yeah, one of the spots that really I remember tripping me up a lot was the ship. I think towards the end, you're walking over a ship. I think it's a ship, something on the shore, and the building has been part of it's been broken away, and it's raining. It's nighttime, and the rafters that are left bare, you have to line those up against the remaining wall on the opposite side. Do you recall this?
Oh yeah.
That one tripped me up a few times, but then towards the beginning, that small village that was burnt down, there you have to go onto the second story of one of those buildings.
Yes. That one I found by luck. I literally was just holding it down and I saw it.
Yeah, that was a rough one. Only because you couldn't see how to get up there.
It's the environment. So like there's one part where it's near the end of the game where you come to this staircase and it goes down, and there's 3 rooms you have to find. One's at the bottom, one's at a different part of the area. So I figure, oh, well, I went through the left door, the right door, there's another door over here. It's probably over here somewhere. It's not. You have to go back to that room where the down staircase is, and if you turn fully to the right, there's an up staircase.
Where'd you say this was?
Near the end of the game in Helheim, when you're being chased by Fenrir.
Yeah, there's a bunch of hallways.
Yes.
And then I think there's, like, you can go down in, like, what almost seems like a sewer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
I remember
there's an up staircase. I had to look it up. I was like, where do I go?
Yeah, that was hard to find.
So, you know, little things like that honestly...
Yeah, they don't rely on... The game as a whole doesn't need it, but there are just a few moments that would really be benefited by the typical signposting you see in other games.
My favorite puzzles were the ones with the illusion arches, where you had to move around and walk through the arches. And like, so basically, whenever you're looking through the arch at a certain angle, if something is an illusion, it will change or disappear when you look through it correctly. And when you pass through it, it becomes reality. Mm-hmm. And even the illusion can become reality if you go back through it, you know? And you have to use that to solve some puzzles. But it's crazy to watch just literally the world as you pass, your vision passes under, change and be halfway changed outside and inside. What an awesome puzzle.
Yes, the puzzles are awesome. The technology is awesome. I remember I was in school when this game came out, and, you know, maybe the technology is older, but became very accessible at the very least while I was in school, seeing a lot of videos about how it was being used in Unity. It's awesome. And it's often used for Windows, like when you're looking into a building or something. What open world game were we playing recently? Oh no, I was playing Final Fantasy, and then Final Fantasy 15, and then I watched a video on it, and you can see inside some buildings, and there's like obviously like this entire mall right here, and then you just step around the corner of this building and it's an entirely separate building, or like different insides.
Oh my
god. Just paste random things on the windows. Anyway, it is pretty cool. I think that's probably one of my favorite moments of the game. That whole section.
My favorite moment is definitely fighting Fenrir. It's just, there's no other fight like it in the game. Everything else is kind of these, you know, humanoid enemies. Even if it's a giant, like it's still a humanoid. You fight it the same. You dodge. Mm-hmm. This is a massive, crazy design beast. And you have to, and it fights like a beast. It's slamming its paws around. It's jumping into the darkness and leaping out at you. It's really visceral. It feels good when you're just wailing on it. You know, it's really, really well done. I liked that a lot.
What are some of the standouts about combat? Like, why is it good? Why does it fall short in some places?
Feel is king in this regard. I think that you have this, you know, everyone kind of, the basics of designing combat is, oh, you need a pause frame. God of War does this brilliantly, actually. You know, like where when you hit them, you stop for a second and then you pull through and you get a little sound effect. You even see it in indie games, right? Where you'll hit, you land the hit, it freezes, and then you go through. It's like simple 101. That's what Team Ninja's doing here.
Was it Team Ninja or Ninja Theory?
It was Team Ninja, wasn't it? I'm pretty sure it's Team Ninja.
Anyway.
Yeah, check for me. And they do it so well.
Ninja Theory.
It is Ninja Theory, okay. Team Ninja did, they did...
other things.
Crap. Yeah, I get them mixed up all the time.
I also get them mixed up often.
And anyway, so Ninja Theory, they're really good at this. They have... So the feel, when you hit someone, it feels really good. And when you break through a block, the effect that happens is really satisfying. It's not a difficult combat system. It's about managing your enemies. She's not very good at turning around to focus on a different enemy. It's keeping aware of where you are, dodging out of the way. It's very simple, you know, a kick, a heavy hit, and a fast hit. But yeah, it's mostly the feel, and the second thing I'd say is, aside from of course breaking up the puzzles with some sort of action, is you're typically like it throws in, especially for the first 2/3, it sprinkles in a little new thing here or there. Oh, and then you have to charge your sword to be able to you know, unless you want to waste one of your, like, oh well, you can slow down time now, or oh, you don't want to waste slow down time. Here's your new sword. You can charge it up to make any enemy who's gone invisible manifest again, or if not invisible but intangible manifest again. So, you know, little things like that, and they throw it in often enough to where, since it's such a simple system, it's just often enough to keep it interesting until that last third, really.
Yeah.
So I'd say that's its strengths in terms of being a combat system as a part of a game that is not a combat-focused game.
Yeah. In any, you know, if it were the focus, it would be pretty boring.
Yeah, it'd be pretty bland.
But it's not. It's focused on many other things. One of the things that they try to tie into combat to bring into the narrative is the rot that she acquires through the course of the game. When you die, this rot starts crawling up her arm, and when it gets to her heart,
Her head.
Or her head, okay.
The seat of the soul.
Oh.
Which is just a great phrasing. Incorrect, apparently, according to Jacob Geller.
Oh?
Have you watched his head transplant video yet?
No.
Dude, do it.
I gotta.
It's really good. And I was talking actually with a PhD psychologist about some of the stuff he talks about. And I'm like, yeah, this is absolutely cutting edge. Like, you know, there are actual brain, like, nerves and endings in your stomach and in your heart. And, like, they feel like they don't think you could transfer a head and be the same person, because so much of what is going on in your physical body is a part of your consciousness. It's crazy.
Wow.
It's crazy. I haven't actually watched the entirety of his video. I skimmed through it to kind of get the point, because I hate watching him because he's so good at what he does. And it makes me angry.
Haven't seen Soma yet.
Yeah,
Soma.
so I skipped through the Soma parts and wanted to kind of see what he's getting at. But yeah, it's really cool. It comes down to this really interesting idea of what makes a person, and I like it because it regrounds it in your physical body is just as much a part. There's no, like, it's not just this ethereal soul that leaves you one day and you go and start strumming a harp up in the clouds. Like, you can't be that. All of this that is here is you, and that's it. Like, to the point where when you lose your arm, your brain literally cannot accept that you've lost your arm. Like,
wow,
it's crazy.
Yeah, I'll give it a watch. I love pretty much all this content.
He's so good. I hate him.
Just be happy for him.
I am. Oh, if I ever met him, I would just give him a big kiss. Maybe not a kiss. That's assault. But I would commend him in every way. I look up to him so much. But when I watch him, I only go, I am not that good, and it makes me feel sad.
Yeah. So when this rot gets to your head, the seat of the soul,
how many deaths does that take?
None, because it's a lie.
It's a lie?
It is a lie.
I hate you, video game. I hate you.
Yeah, so you cannot actually get a...
That's smart, though. That's smart. I like that.
Yes, it is a very
I
good
have
lie.
been deceived, duped, bamboozled, hoodwinked.
Correct. Yeah, it's a very interesting thing. There's also what I think might be a lie in God of War, to trick some players, to lull some players into a game they might not otherwise play.
If you have nothing else to say, this is a great transition. Because I'm done. That's my Hellblade take.
Really?
I could talk a little more about the story.
Yeah, let's talk about the story a bit more. Just your opinions on the story. Since
so again,
you're
I
new to
clarified.
it.
I felt it was a little bit too heavy-handed in spots. But the first thing it reminded me of is Myst, because of the way they do the not the story itself, but the way they do the like they layer over these actual films people, into the environment. Makes me think of Myst.
That was an
every
interesting
time.
choice.
Because I remember is my earliest memory. I cannot think back. I was two or three. I can't remember exactly. Watching my parents play Myst. That is my earliest memory.
Wow.
I remember the layout of the room. I can describe it to my parents in detail. They're like, how do you remember this? We have no pictures. Like, what are you talking? I remember the computer, big white, red hat. Like, it was.
There are a couple things that I can recall pretty vividly from when I was about 3 as well, that my parents
It's just
often
like, why
what
that?
are you
But I
talking about?
remember seeing the brothers, the way they do the two brothers, you open the book. And I immediately, 3-year-old nostalgia just washed over me. I love the way they do lore. It's the guy who helped her through the wilderness, who was captured by the Northman, kind of walking her through the world. He's basically making her a lore master, right? He's because he was an educated man who came here and he learned all about their culture and their histories, and he's telling her these stories, some of which I'd never heard of before. Like Sigmund, he's been a long time for you, but he...
Yeah, and I don't know much about really any mythology anyway.
He talks about these stories that I'd never heard of before. And I was like, I would literally just sit there. Biggest criticism of the whole game, when you move away from the stone, his voice gets quieter. You have to sit there and listen to the stone. You can't keep doing what you're doing. And you bet your sweet ass I sat there and listened the whole time. Because there's some good stories. Some of them I knew, the Ragnarok story and all that stuff. But it's like, I didn't know much about Sigmund or Sigurd and all these heroes of Norse mythology. So that was really fun. I like that part of it. And, when I first started playing, it's just a bridge that leads to hell. It's just a bridge. And there's a big, almost draconic looking structure hanging above it. And I was like, yeah, this is what this would look like. Extremely, a little bit grand, but very believable and grounded.
Yeah.
And like something that these people would build to represent that thing.
Very different from God of War.
Yeah, where it's just the most splendiferous, majestic, crazy thing. Which is great. I still love that. But I definitely, like you, prefer that weird, this makes sense. It could almost not be that. It could just be a bridge that happens to have this crazy draconic looking structure above it. That's what I liked best about the story, are those moments. Just descending into what is just a crater in a mountain. That's all it is, but it's also hell. It's so good. There are some very surreal moments, where she goes through the lake of bodies. I'm sure you remember that part. Yeah. With all the hands. My favorite part is you have to cross a bridge of two massive humans just holding each other's hands, trying to they know they're going to be separated in a few years as they drift apart on this open sea, and they're just clasping each other, and you walk across their massive giant arms. It's very good.
Yeah. The vistas in this game are incredible, and that just goes back to the presentation of the game. It is top of the line graphically. Still, even 5 years later, it sits up there as top 3 in my opinion, with Last of Us 2 and the other one.
And you're not talking about art style, right? Just to clarify, you're talking about fidelity.
Fidelity. I mean, I love the art style as well. No, this does it for me 100%.
No, I knew that's what you meant. I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah,
for anyone listening.
Art style is very different.
It's hard to quantify.
I would talk about something like Hollow Knight,
Hotline Miami.
Hotline Miami. I'd talk about even just last year, Sable.
Sable. Oh, dude, so many good examples.
Yeah, very different art style and the visual presentation. Absolutely. The fidelity. Yeah, we don't have a ton to say about this game. It is very short.
However, worth your time. I would argue. I think anyone should play this. And I played it on normal. It's a little challenging actually, but
yeah, it's not a particularly easy game.
Can't lose apparently. So have fun with that.
Yeah.
I had no idea. You cruel, beautiful developers, you. Every time I die, I'm like, I'm killing her now. That's hating myself. That's stupid.
That's the point.
Yeah. It's very good.
Yeah. Play it with headphones.
Please.
Now, just play the game. The sequel's coming out.
Don't play it on PS5.
Oh, why?
I hit many bugs. I had to not game breaking, but I had to restart the game to fix bugs.
Okay.
And in fact, I think it's well known because there's a little warning. I don't know if this happens with every PS4 game. It hasn't up until now. I don't know if it's a recent update, but when I booted it up, it says this PS4 game may not play well on PS5 or something.
Oh no, that must be for games that are known to not work well.
Okay, yeah.
Interesting.
So that showed up, and I did, specifically in the first few hours, hit many bugs.
Oh, I didn't know that.
But it cleaned up a lot.
I might pick it up again on Xbox then.
Yeah.
Because they have the 4K 60 update. There is no update for the PlayStation version.
I feel if it weren't for Eternal, I would regret buying a PS5.
Really?
Yeah, because of all the awesome stuff that they're doing for backwards compatibility.
Yeah, still got the exclusives.
I was about to
as
say,
of right
dude,
now.
Demon Souls, Returnal, dude, and they got some good ones lined up.
I don't know how true this is, but I heard a rumor that Sony might be pursuing FromSoft.
That would be what that's what we were talking about a couple episodes ago. I don't remember which one, where we said like Microsoft's been buying up, Bethesda, these huge companies. Sony needs to look over to their home, like start buying up Square and these huge companies.
Yeah,
like,
I think Square and Capcom would be the big
dude.
ones.
If they got Capcom,
but they don't
Sony could inject life into some of those IPs.
Yeah, but Capcom does pretty well themselves.
They do great.
The past decade,
but there are a couple IPs that awesome. They just leave. They do nothing with.
Yeah.
And then, dude, what if they bought Konami? Not bought Konami, but bought the IPs.
I wouldn't want them to.
Not Sony?
No,
dude, Castlevania, 3D Castlevania from Sony?
Just leave them alone. Just make a Metroidvania. But it doesn't need the Castlevania moniker to be good.
No, but my point, they won't make a game like that though, unless they had that. Like that's what I'm getting at. Does that make sense? Like it's like they won't. And then I don't want a Metal Gear Solid 6 ever, but anyone can do better than Survive. That's not fair. I haven't played that game, but I assume anyone can do better than Survive.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot you can do with that IP.
Sure.
And then,
but you could also just leave it alone.
The number one. What needs some more games? Silent Hill.
Silent Hill you could just keep doing. Fine.
Yeah. I want Konami to...
Typically, I just want something new.
Me too.
Very seldomly do
fair.
I want a sequel. A direct sequel. Fine if it's just something else that, Final Fantasy 16 and Final Fantasy 15 is different.
Well, it's just crazy because you watch, PT... and that is what Silent Hill could have been in the modern day.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that is the most heartbreaking thing in video games from the 2010s. Like, that could have been what Silent Hill was. Like, there's so much more that can come out of these IPs because you use the name to get the attention, but you do something crazy with it, and so you get a big budget for it. I think there's benefit there, I'd argue,
Yes. Let's see, Square. They could buy Square.
Dude. That would be huge for them.
I think... which do you think would be cheaper? Square or Capcom?
Probably Capcom right now because Final Fantasy 14. That would be my argument. I think Final Fantasy 14, it's... Like, if even just trying to buy that alone would be gargantuanly expensive.
That makes sense. Yeah. Capcom would be a good one. But they do not have Microsoft Cash.
No. They don't got that Gates dinero.
Correct.
That guy's so rich.
Yeah. It's
people
gross.
that rich have to be the most terrible people who've ever lived.
Yeah.
Like they just can't be decent people and have that much money.
Just the boys.
Yeah, just the boys. Exactly. I need to watch more of Diabolical. I've liked it quite a bit so far.
I probably won't. There's so many other things I want to watch.
No, for sure.
And I want to rewatch BoJack.
I need to finish
Really
BoJack.
bad. Yes, you do.
Very bad.
But first, you need to finish.
Yes, I promised.
You need to finish Nathan for You.
Yes, I promised.
Last episode. I can't believe you didn't finish that last year.
Anyway,
moving on from this game. Please go play it. It is a special thing. Our conversation probably didn't do it justice. A little all over the place today. But it is something unlike anything else. And is presented also, I think, unlike anything else. It's a very concise package. Zack may have seen through the veneer a little bit. I don't think that's going to be the case for everyone. It wasn't for me. But that's common for the two of us. We see things the other does not pretty often.
Yeah.
But
I played Prince of Persia 2008 in the absolute worst condition possible.
And I'm glad you loved that game as much as you did.
I still love it. I actually thought about it just like 2 days ago.
I wouldn't mind revisiting it sometime.
I really like that game, man.
That's good. That's awesome.
And what's sad is because I played it first, I bet I'm going to like it more than Sands of Time, even though I know Sands of Time will be a better game.
No, I've liked that game more than Sands of Time. I love Sands of Time, but I
can't believe I haven't played Sands of Time.
It's a much more unique game.
What a problem child I am.
Yeah.
Can you pour me some of that meat over there?
Yes. Let me take one more sip of mine, and then we're going to move on to our next game.
God of War, which... This is the God of War 2018 soft reboot, I think is the best definition of what it is. I think it handles nostalgia better than almost any other game.
Oh my god, and we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
Again, spoilers throughout here.
Yeah.
No spoiler warning.
So
like on
this
the
is
screen
a
or
game
anything.
that when I played it, hit my top 10 immediately. I've never played it again, and I've played other games. So I don't know where it would stand these days. Probably very close, but I know it would not be a top 10 for me anymore. But it would be very high on that list.
Top 25 easy, right?
Easy. Very easy. We've played Outer Wilds. I've played Rain World since. I've played Metal Gear Solid 5
last year there were
since.
3 top 20 contenders, at least one
Disco
top 10
Elysium,
for me.
Persona 5. You know what? I feel like I could cry knowing that I'll never play a JRPG better than Persona 5. Like, I know I've hit the peak. Like, that's
I don't
my
know,
JRPG.
man. There's some pretty incredible ones. But, yeah, nothing that will engage all of me in that way.
100 hours. Like, easily. Easily played 100 hours that game.
Even Chrono Cross, which has been on my top 10 a few times. Certainly stayed in my top 20.
Battle Network 3 is not a JRPG, right?
I would say that,
okay,
yes.
Then otherwise that would blow it out of the water for me. Like, just from nostalgia plus how flipping fantastic that game is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even with how much I love Chrono Cross, Persona 5, it is something else, man.
It's something else, dude.
And then Disco Elysium and Outer Wilds, man, those are... What a year!
Yeah, Outer Wilds, since I played it, top 20. Thought about it all year, top 10. It's about to break the top 5 for me. It's there.
Pretty easily for me.
Like, it's right there. It has to contend against some real doozies, though. Some real doozies. And, Outer Wilds isn't that climbed that high without even being a Zack game. There's no combat. There's no, none of that. It's just that good.
It's a Zack
emotional
piece
experience.
Of media.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that's fair.
It's a Zack work of art.
Ooh, just like friggin' Disco.
Yeah.
Oh, Disco Elysium. We're talking about God of War. God of War is a great game.
Now, let's talk about this mead real quick.
Okay.
Odin's Skull Nordic Honey Wine.
You should be able to find
with
this
sour
at a
apples.
Specs or a Total Wine, or probably not at a liquor store, but a Specs or Total Wine near you. You should be able to find this. It's produced across the U.S. If you're in the U.S. This, Tyler and I both agree, is very strong, very sweet, very easy to drink, and therefore very dangerous.
Yes. Let's read the back of the bottle here. Odin, one-eyed and long-bearded, often carrying a spear, might be one of the most complex characters in Norse mythology. This brew is intended to honor Odin's name, master of inspiration and fury.
I love Odin as a character. In fact, Gandalf is based on Odin.
Hmm.
I don't know if you knew that. That's a little fun fact. And in fact, when you read the books, Ian McKellen, and this is not a slight against how they portrayed him in the films. The films made a lot of changes from the books, I think, for the better for a film adaptation. Gandalf is a much more noble figure in the films. In the books, there are many times where you know he's a good guy, but you're not always sure he's not just ambivalent about what's going on, you know? There are many moments like that where you're like, why weren't you there?
Certainly, I've only read The Hobbit of the
I think
series.
The Hobbit
I've only read The
exemplifies that
Hobbit.
best.
It definitely
You're like,
exemplifies
where
that.
were you? And he's like, I had more important things to take care of. You're like, we were dying. Like, you know, it's very odd. And he just wanders around. In fact, the word in a letter Tolkien wrote, the word he used is Odinic wanderer. Is how
Odinic.
he just, yeah, which is I'm pretty sure he made that up, but more power. You can make whatever you want, dude. Like, you're Tolkien.
Definitely.
But it does fit really well. And for a character who is so clearly defined, if you like Norse mythology, I'd highly recommend anyone listening to read Neil Gaiman's Norse mythology. It's written in very modern language. It's very silly, very simple to read. Kind of even sucks away some of the overarching like grandeur because it's so simple to read. But it gets what Norse mythology does, and he does Odin really well.
Did you know that Neil Gaiman has been doing this for several years, maybe a decade? He's been once a year doing a night with Neil Gaiman in which he just sits on the front of the stage and talks to the audience.
I need to watch. I've been watching speeches
There's
from
one
him.
coming in Austin soon.
Oh,
he's been doing it in Austin for a
gosh.
while. He did one, I think in 2019, just pre-COVID. There's one coming up like in June or something.
It's crazy, dude. Just these past 2 weeks, I've been listening to lectures
look it up.
from him.
Look it up. When we're done here, a night with Neil Gaiman.
I've never read Sandman. I've only read the first couple issues. I've read your favorite part, of course.
Yeah, definitely. When what's his name? Morbius.
Yeah.
Is that it? Morbius
Right?
is.
No. That's the. It's whatever.
I
Sandman.
feel like it's Morbius.
Maybe.
Anyway, the Sandman he goes to hell and is part of like this game night at a bar with demons, but sort of like his soul is on the line, and the
Morpheus.
game Morpheus. There we go. The game is to one up the concept of the previous statement. And in this case, they're concepts of death, and they're concepts of death and life, hope, and hope is the final thing, but basically life and death. Just here's a concept of death, here's a concept of life that trumps this concept of death, here's a concept of death that trumps that, and the contestants keep one-upping each other, and finally arriving at hope, and the demon's like.
Oh, it's so powerful. It builds so well.
Yeah.
And the art is really good.
It's really incredible. I mean, they get to like black holes and just supernovas, and anthrax is one of the concepts of death. And then I think he involves something involving like the green, or rather the rot in
Swamp Thing.
Swamp Thing,
Which
and how that invites
my
life to
current
come back.
next two graphic novel reads are Sandman and then Alan Moore's Swamp Thing.
I've got to read those. I've just got to
So
read
apparently really
more graphic novels.
Yeah, me too. Don't get Omnibus Edition. I've been doing some research. Don't get the Omnibus Edition.
For what?
For
Sandman?
either. So they did one for Sandman and Swamp Thing. Don't do it for either. Apparently they really wash out the colors, and like it's a little bit more like modern comic-y. It's less
because those were all printed on the like newspaper.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a big difference with the printing styles. Absolutely. So those initial releases of the trade paperbacks, those are definitely the way to go. Or
is the Sandman show out yet?
No.
The one that Netflix is doing? Not yet?
No, I think it'll be out next year.
Okay. I need to read
or
it then
late
before
this
then
year.
for sure.
Just probably the first two. I'm sure they aren't going to
I just want to
whole
read.
thing.
Yeah, no, I do want to read Neil Gaiman's run as a whole, though.
Absolutely. But I think that would also be true, the printing of any modern hardback versions of Watchmen. I think there might be a similar issue with those.
I have a 90s paperback of Watchmen, and I love V for Vendetta. I love a bunch of great graphic novels. Love Superman graphic novels. Nothing has beaten Watchmen. Nothing. I don't know
if I were to read them again,
will.
I'm pretty sure V for Vendetta would be
that's definitely
my
more preferred
one.
For sure.
But in high school, currently I would say my favorite is Watchmen. But yeah, if I were to read them again, that's my deal.
Yeah, for sure.
V for Vendetta.
I like the heady philosophical stuff going on.
But if I were to read all of them, it would be a toss-up. Like Sandman is incredible. I'm sure Swamp Thing will be up there. I bet it'll be
so far up there.
And then I also would like to get the trade paperbacks because there's not many. There's like I think they end at around 5 trade paperbacks, so like 30 issues or so. Both Animal Man and Swamp Thing from the New 52. Those are intrinsically tied.
Yeah,
I think Swamp Thing went a little longer than Animal Man, but those are intrinsically tied. They should be read together.
And I've heard great things about the New 52 Animal Man.
Oh my god. There's no body horror like it. It's insane. Have you seen it?
No.
You haven't seen? Oh my god, it's wild. It is there's an entire realm of body horror. So the red,
red
and the rot.
I'm familiar with that.
Are the two realms that Swamp Thing and Animal Man inhabit and have dominion over. Oh my god, it's crazy, dude. Watching the transformations into it. So he has animal powers in the real world, but in the red, he starts to take on the likeness of animals in this weird body horror. I'll show you when we're done here.
Yeah, please do.
It's insane. Oh, those were good. Anyway, we're talking about God of War.
Are we? We've tried like 4 times now.
Yeah. Listen, this is good mead, bro.
This is good mead, my guy.
Mead. 15% and 19%
What day is it?
Oh, dude, Brock. All right, let's get to God of War. Where are we? Yeah.
So God of War for
2018,
me.
take it away.
God of War for me, I played it right when it came out, and unlike you, I was a big God of War fan going in. You, I recall, played them at a time where you weren't very fond of non-highbrow games, I would say.
Yeah, definitely.
I was a huge fan, but I was a fan late. I'd already met Amanda at the time, and I just played through. I played every God of War game, handhelds included.
Is that right before Metal Gear Solid?
I played that quite a while before Metal Gear Solid.
Okay, actually, and then so what was it? Because you've done that a few times. So you did God of War, and then Final Fantasy?
I did Dark Souls first, like the FromSoft catalog.
Okay.
And then I did God of War. Final Fantasy's been ongoing for a long time. I did one more before I did Metal Gear, and I can't remember what it was. But in Metal Gear, I think in 2018 or 19.
You were playing a few Castlevania games, but that wasn't
that wasn't a full series tackle. Okay. I'll try to think about it. I know there was one more that I really dug into, but all that to say, I was a big fan going in. I knew they were going to change the formula up. So when I played it, I wasn't looking at reviews. I didn't realize that I was calling it a masterpiece. But I played it all the way, and immediately, I would argue God of War as, if you were going to bring best video game openings of all time, I would say God of War is an easy
2018?
contender.
Or the original?
No, you're 2018.
Yeah,
2018. Because you have the emotional, slow opening, building the characters, the setting of the camera right over his shoulder. You really get to know the characters and get a sense for why you're here. And then it kicks off immediately into a boss fight with Baldur. And he just knocks on the door. It's so let's get this game started. You know, it's so
it pulls no punches.
You're two gods flinging each other through buildings across
it's a Dragon Ball Z fight.
It's awesome. And
it is.
And it's the perfect. To this day, I don't think they've reached the balance of cinematic and player input as well as that moment. I think that moment, you feel involved the whole time, even though there are some very cinematic moments that you have no control. You're very it bleeds together so much. And so I remember I was with Amanda, and she was playing it with me, and it was my tiny little 1080p screen that I used to have. I could barely read the text for the item menu. Didn't matter. She and I were like, like it's just so cool. And so I mean, I was hooked immediately.
Yeah.
Immediately when I played that game.
The opening is incredible. I would put it in the upper echelon of video game openings for sure. You mentioned earlier, I'm going to forget this. You mentioned
Fire away.
A focus or a delivery on nostalgia. I'd like you to go in on that.
Yeah.
I don't like the original God of War games. But despite that, it's that moment.
Yeah.
And I knew it was coming. It was so good.
Yeah, and there are, I'd argue, 3 really strong nostalgia moments, and one hits right at the end. So I won't. Anyone who's played the game knows what I'm talking about. So I won't clarify it explicitly. I don't need to. There are 3 really big nostalgia moments, and what's great about this game is it's not using nostalgia to go like, hey, you remember that time when I made something good? You remember that? Like, that's not what's happening. So this is, in my opinion, how to do nostalgia correctly. So, Kratos reaches a point. I don't remember the exact context. It's been since 2018. But he reaches a point where he needs the help of his original weapons, the Chaos Blades. Mm-hmm. And he has them buried under his house. And
the context is that Atreus is sick and he has to go to Hell.
That's right.
Which is a frozen realm, and his ice axe won't do anything.
Yeah, and he says, his Chaos Blades are fire.
Then I'll have to go back home.
Oh, he just says it. Oh my god.
He goes back home, lifts up the floorboard, unwraps this sheet, and takes off his bloody bandages where the chains were previously wrapped, and puts them back on.
So this is the life that, like, this is what makes it good, is it's not just a nostalgia moment. It plays directly into what is happening in his current story, right? Where you don't need to have played the other games to know what these symbolize at this point. You would be aware enough that these are things that he wants to avoid. They represent his past exploits, the person he's been running away from. But what he's willing to take on for the sake of his son, right? Because of the relationship that he's built with his son. Mm-hmm. And they wrap around him, and it immediately gives you this power fantasy of just shredding through those.
Yeah, just enemies. Hordes of enemies again.
And that's what they're meant for.
Good.
They're the crowd control.
Yeah,
the crowd control weapons. And that's so late in the game, to where the first time I played it, I wasn't expecting it, but I remember that moment vividly. I remember the condition of the room that I was in, because it hits so hard. It's not cheap. It's a part of his. It's a part of his.
Dude, it's so good.
Yeah, it's a part of his.
I don't even like the other games, and it just get it. It's good. I played them all. I have played them all. Well, I didn't play the PSP ones. I played 1 through 3 back to back.
I actually think you'd love Ghost of
Sparta.
In the day. I think you'd get a lot out of it as a handheld. And you don't have time now. Yeah, you don't have time now.
Oh, I've got them on PS3.
Don't play them on PS3.
Oh.
Well, you can play Ghost of Sparta, I guess, but like it's a handheld game, and it works great as a handheld.
Okay.
But I had played through the whole series before even the announcement of God of War, because I was already, I played through them. Well, Amanda and I were still dating, so 2015, I think, is when I played through all of them. Back to back, I just played the whole series. I just felt like it. 3 being my favorite. For a few reasons over 2. I know that's not super popular opinion, but what I like out of a game was satisfied in 3. I like it's the first one that acknowledges that Kratos sucks.
Yeah.
Like it's the first one that like really makes you think, like, it doesn't
but it's cheap. It might acknowledge it for the sake of acknowledging it, but doesn't do anything about it.
No, it's not highbrow at all. No, like
it doesn't do anything about it.
The best moment's actually right at the beginning when Kratos is plucking out Poseidon's eyes, but then it cuts to Poseidon's perspective of that happening. Yeah. And that's the only moment in the game, aside from the very end, where you're like, oh, this sucks. Like, I suck.
Is it Artemis or Athena that you kill at the very end? Like, you don't fight her. the cutscene happens.
Are you talking about the one who actually cared about him? And Athena. Yeah. Yeah, and that's the one who talks to him on the boat.
Yeah.
In God of War 2018, which is great. My biggest complaint about God of War 3 is they explain away Zeus's behavior, saying, "Oh, when Pandora's box was opened, then everybody went crazy." And it's like, don't undermine the fact that these are terrible people doing terrible things, which make other people become terrible people to do terrible things. That's the whole point of really just Greek mythology, like as a whole. And so in my headcanon, I just cut out the whole Pandora's box crap. Because it just undermines so much of what the game was. I definitely forgot about.
They don't do that here.
Not at all.
They double down on that with Thor's sons. What are their names? Magni and Modi. When which one's the small one?
I don't remember.
Okay,
probably
let's say Modi. Let's say Modi.
That sounds like a small one.
You kill the big brother, and the small brother confronts you again. Not about killing his brother. He's mad that they're gonna blame him for, or no, they're going to consider his adoption of Mjolnir lesser because it's by default because his older brother died.
Incredible.
Like that's what he's mad about.
I love it.
He doesn't care that his brother died. He doesn't care that you're about to kill his family. Yeah, like they double down on that and they don't shy away from it.
Which is
the Greek gods are garbage.
Yeah.
I mean, all gods are garbage.
Yeah, exactly. That's the whole point.
Most of them. Athena seemed pretty all right.
Yeah, Athena seemed all right. She's the goddess of wisdom. You know, like you gotta know something. I guess
she's pretty all right. And then whoever.
But there is one more
fine.
Nostalgia moment, which anytime a movie or a show or anything ends on a nostalgia moment, I almost always puke. Like you really feel like you couldn't earn your own moment. But this game...
Oh, it ends on a nostalgia moment?
Basically. There's a couple things after, but like the climactic ending moment is a nostalgia moment where like I think it's actually one subtle enough to where you might not even get it if you didn't know the other games.
Okay. I mean, I know them well enough.
Yeah, and you would get what's going on regardless. You get the idea of what's happening. But everybody knows what I'm talking about. It's the moment in the game I remember the most fondly.
Well, I will see it tonight.
And it really does stick with me. I think it's a great moment. All that to say, I think that this game, obviously from a story perspective, from a just raucous Norse romp, meeting so many characters, the dwarves.
They're so good, dude. Brock is so cool. I can't quote him here on the podcast, but I just love it. Like his use of obscenities he's one of the kind of people that does not comprehend that they are obscenities.
No, speech.
It's just speech, correct. And I prefer that kind of person.
It's so great, and it's like it's not even, when I curse, it's pretty hollow. It's just like, oh yeah, I'm just saying a curse word. Like, you're right, it's the inventive. Like, I am pursuing this as an art form. I remember the movie A Christmas Story from the 80s, and the narrator's like, my father wove a tapestry of obscenities that still hangs over my hometown to this day. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's that level.
Yeah, that's Brock. I like him a lot. His brother, less so, is funny.
I was about to say, his brother is what you would be as a dwarf merchant in the game, probably.
Oh, yeah?
I think that's probably
his brother makes weapons of war, magical weapons of war, but is a germaphobe. Like, somehow was introduced to science and knows what germs are and is disgusted that germs are on everything.
Yeah.
So, doesn't like touching anything. Like, well, pick things up like with just two fingers and like, his other fingers stretched out so not to touch the grossness. Yeah, he's silly. But Brock gets me.
Yeah.
I like Brock a lot.
Brock's fantastic.
So the story is one that I love, dude. It's
too good.
Going.
And you mentioned the pacing as well.
It is wonderfully paced. Especially the second half of the game. So, spoilers here again. The game opens with you putting your wife, Kratos putting his wife, Atreus' mother, on a pyre, and you're going to take her ashes to the top of the tallest mountain in all the realms.
It's great, too, because you don't watch his softening with her. You know what I mean? You have no experience of him not, like, coming off of... Because at the end of God of War 3, he's just done with life. Mm-hmm. He's realized that he's accomplished nothing, and that's the end, you know? But in this game, we don't see the transition to a guy who has decided to live again and has decided that, you know, life is worth living in any way, nor one who could care genuinely for another human, much less a woman, in a romantic way, you know? He was just buff angry man, the character, for so long, and then Cory Barlog comes along, let's make this guy a real person.
Yeah.
And succeeded while not neglecting all the stuff that came before.
It's so good, man.
Yeah.
So you and Atreus, your son Atreus, taking your ashes up to the top of the mountain, the tallest mountain in all the realms. You get there and realize you forgot about a realm, and there is a taller mountain that you need to get to. What were we just talking about before? That led us down
nostalgia,
this path.
We were talking about the story,
just the story in general.
The pacing.
Yeah, the pacing of the story. All of that is paced pretty well. But after that, once you finally get to the top of the mountain, that's the halfway point. And from there, you know, I only have an hour left of the game. I have not seen credits yet. I will do it tonight right after this cast. But so far from the halfway point, the progression is fantastic. Now, at that point, I thought that the game is a little too long in the tooth. I was thinking maybe it was this portion of the game. I don't think so. I just think that it's the whole game being 25 or so hours is a bit much.
Yeah, which I agree. I think that it's a little long.
And I was trying to think of what you could remove. Now, you couldn't remove the things that happen between Atreus and Kratos. You gotta have those. But I think the section that is really the worst. Actually, like, it's fine. That's not to say it's bad.
It's one of the prettiest, though.
But Alfheim could go. I think Alfheim could go, and you could just spread some of those moments out a little more, and it would work a little more. I think for a single player linear game, it's open. You know, it's got some stuff. I understand it's got some stuff there to explore, but and leave those there. Sure, leave them there. But for a single player linear narrative, I think 25 hours is pushing it. In an open world game, that might be a little different. When the narrative is not the express purpose of the game. When living the life is the purpose of the game.
Even Last of Us 2, which is, you know, perfectly paced in almost every way, even that drags a little bit as a 25-hour game, you know?
A little bit, but it has a much clearer delineation between the first and second half.
As much as I love the ending with the whole beach in California stuff, as much as I think that's the best way to end that game, I do think by that time I was kind of like, okay, like, let's see. You know.
I think, because we were playing it for the podcast. I think if you were to play the game, you should take a decent break between the first and second act. And you know what it is if you play God of War. I mean, Last of Us 2. After you're done with Ellie's story, maybe go play another game and come back and play. Like, let it resonate. Then come back and play, not Ellie, Abby's story. But also, it's different for us when we're playing it on a 2-week schedule. For anybody else, that might not be relevant.
Maybe not. Yeah.
Depends on how you play. What I'm saying might not be totally relevant. Yeah, depending on how you play, because the story is about 25 hours. You could play this game for 40 pretty easily. There's enough side content there. Just think, given how focused it is on the narrative is a little too long. There's too many times where I'm going back to do, going to the same place or even a new place, sure, just to do something that is almost menial. Like, you could have just given me the light of all time. Yeah, so many trolls. I mean, the troll fights are fun. All the fights are fun, really. Even with the repeats.
One of the best combat systems in any single-player action game.
It's so good. Which we'll talk about the combat in just a moment. But yeah, I just think you could strip away a little bit of that and make it a little more streamlined, but leave the pauses for the exploration. Alfheim largely could have just been exploration. Maybe still go to Alfheim, get the light, but do it quicker. I didn't need all of that nonsense in Alfheim. That would have been the best part to trim the fat.
Part I remember the least of.
Yeah, it's not that great.
I do think they do optional content really well, though.
Yes.
Yeah, because you got Muspelheim, which is kind of like a battle tower. You know,
is that the fireplace?
Yeah,
I've not gone there.
Okay, yeah. And you don't need to; it's optional.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I've unlocked it. I've not gone there though.
And it's literally about battle tower, with one of the Valkyries at the top, and it's fun. It's a good time. It's really fun little challenges. Makes you kind of have to test your mettle. And then Muspelheim, which is Nibelheim. Muspelheim's the fire. Nibelheim is the mist. So the mist area, that's another optional area where it's like a dungeon, and it's a randomly generated. There's 4 separate sections, and each section has a branch off that either has a Valkyrie or a treasure chest or something, and you can go in there and just fight really challenging enemies. The mist is increasing your health. Just a fun little dungeon thing you can do. Really solid. Cool. That's like the post game really is like Nibelheim. Nibelheim's like very difficult. It's the hardest thing probably outside of the Valkyries.
Okay. I'm not going to do either of those.
Yeah, we don't got time. We got to get you on Metal Gear Solid 3, baby!
Correct. That is our next game, but we will talk about that later. Yeah, let's move over to the combat. The story's great. I think you should play it. If you're playing it outside of a 2-week schedule like we are, which is pretty much everybody else, those things might not ring true, which would be good for you. But it's good either way. It's fantastic.
So you're way fresher on the combat, so you should definitely drive this one.
Yeah, and I love this kind of combat. I don't mean the third-person sort of intimate, over-the-shoulder view and that visceral beat-em-up sort of combat.
Dude, okay, really quick. The axe, I know it's been done to death.
Yeah.
It's that good, dude!
It's pretty damn good.
All right, anyway, that's it.
It's pretty great. So the axe, he does not have his chaos blades for the first half of this game. You have the Leviathan axe, and you throw it, and like Mjolnir's hammer, will come back to you when you hold out your hand. And you do that often. You use it as a projectile. What this game does masterfully, in my opinion. And the best
thing is when you throw it, it freezes somebody, and you run up and just start punching them with your fists, and then rip it back out of them and start chopping someone else to death. Like, that's just what I wanted out of anything.
It's so good. I love the fact that this is not a game with very much, really at all, vertical progression. All of the, quote, progression in the game, or the vast majority of it, is a horizontal progression. You are getting more and more moves to build your own kit with. And you don't even need to unlock everything, because a lot of it becomes irrelevant towards the last third of the game, when you have really set yourself into a play style. I currently have 70,000 experience, because I have no interest in investing in anything else. I'm not going to learn how to use those things. I have maxed out the few things that I want, and it's awesome. Now, I also have 70,000 experience because my luck is super high. I have strength and luck. That's pretty much it. I am a brawler for sure. The majority of this game I have played hand-to-hand combat. So there are 3, by the end of the game, 5 different skill trees that you can progress in. You have various attacks and abilities with your axe. You also have a shield that is used in hand-to-hand combat and is intrinsically tied to hand-in-hand. So when you're increasing the shield stuff, you're also increasing a lot of the hand-to-hand stuff. Then you've got your Spartan Rage, which is a meter that fills up. You can activate it, and you're just doing crazy damage, not taking any damage yourself. Excuse me, or at the very least, very little damage. I don't know because I have the UI turned off. And Atreus's combat, he's got a few different things that he can do. And then when you get the Chaos Blades back, that's a whole nother skill tree as well. So 5 skill trees. I only mentioned 4 there. 1, 2, 3, 4. No, 5. That's 5. And there's a good drink.
Yeah, agreed.
So sure, there's a couple things that are just immediately better versions of the other thing, but very, very few. Usually, you unlock something with the Leviathan Axe. So when you throw it, it's going to continue to spin and attack the enemy, locking them in place. You get the second version of that, which is then instead going to spin around like 2 or 3 enemies and hit the 3 of them and lock them in place. Yes, it's immediately better, sort of a vertical style of being better, but it also has new utility. That's the biggest thing here. Things with additional utilities to put into your tool belt. And one you can get later on is you can call back your axe. Instead of just catching it, you catch it and immediately go into a unique attack. So, and you can do either a weak version of that, that's one skill, or the callback with L2, or R2 rather, which is your strong attack. That is a totally different thing. And then you mentioned you can throw your axe and stick it into somebody. You just leave it there and freeze them. There's a few different things you can do with that, and then immediately lead into some hand-to-hand combat. Atreus will jump on enemies' backs if you get them in proper positions and start choking them. You can unlock combos while he's choking people, or you can throw enemies in the air and unlock more combos with Atreus. My favorite way to play, what I've done this time around, which is not too far from what I did before. I have played this game up to the halfway point before, just never finished it. I have my light runic attack, which is like a magical attack.
The rune attacks offer so much variety for combos because you can basically cancel with them.
Yeah,
so you can
cancel into anything.
Yeah,
all of the at least I've not noticed anything that does lock you into place. You can cancel out of anything, or at the very least cancel into a block or a parry. Parrying in this game is good.
Yes.
So, first of all, it's readable. That's good. But there's just so much utility to parrying. I love it because every parry leads into some hand-to-hand combat stuff, which is what I focused on. So,
and it looks so cool when Kratos is just beating the crap out of like some massive enemy with his bare fists.
Yeah. And the bare fists also increase the stagger meter more. So the stagger meter increases very little with his blade attacks, but his hand-to-hand combat and the arrows from Atreus's bow increase that significantly. So pretty much anything, even giant enemies, I was staggering with ease. But I would use my heavy runic attack to do an AoE. Then I had something that I don't remember exactly what it does. It's a very strong throw and leaves the axe there. And then I just go in and wail on people with my fists, and Atreus has 5 arrows that all fire super quick. The stun, I maxed out the lightning arrows immediately. So they're stunning everybody around. And then I can, once I have beat up a bunch of people, I can call back my axe, which I still don't have at this point, into an AoE strong attack and immediately do that first AoE strong attack again. And now I've just got 7 enemies ready to press R3 and rip in half. it's good.
It's good.
It's good stuff.
It's good. And there's so many different combos you can come up with.
So many. It's all based on your play style. What do you want to play with, and then how do you want to have that integrate into something else? And the runic attacks allow for that in spades.
I did a big recall build, so I'd be constantly throwing my axe, and I'd build both of my runes would throw my axe, and then my recall would do some special move. Or that's how I built. So I'd be constantly throwing back. It was so good. Oh my gosh.
It just feels too good to me to beat somebody with their fists. And use the shield as well.
An obviously supernatural enemy that this dude is just beating with his fists. It's so cool.
And so one of the shield abilities you can get is to switch stances. And so after an either heavy or weak attack, so R1 or R2, with your bare hands, if you pause for a brief moment, he'll take out his shield, and then you start doing an entirely another move set with the shield once you have switched stances. So it's fun, dude.
It's really fun.
Doing some Captain America BS where you hit somebody with your you do a shield ram, and then you punch your shield to do a massive sound wave. It's so fun.
So cool.
And then, while you're doing that, there's some enemy off in the distance throwing a fireball at you. I immediately parry that back, but the shield absorbs the energy, so now I have a projectile to immediately shoot at anybody else. I love it. It's good stuff. Combat's really good in this game, folks. That's what God of War has always been about, but this is different.
Yeah, it's not this arcadey action. It's very much an action adventure.
Yeah.
It's very different.
Now, I mentioned that there is something in this game that I think could potentially be a lie. I played this game, I think, 2 years ago now, maybe 3, about halfway through. And in this game, you are getting very it presents all of its new items as a looter shooter would. You're getting a bunch of items that drop from enemies, weapon sets, new moves, new perks to put on each of your weapons. You can upgrade your weapons to get new perk slots. You can upgrade the perks themselves. The runic attacks can be leveled up. Each of your abilities that you unlock, separate from unlocking a new, better ability similar to that one, can be leveled up individually. So there's a lot of experience. There's many different resources that you're getting to craft new weapons, get new armor, and they're presented with green, blue, purple, and orange rarities. So common to epic rarity. And all of I vividly remember all of the items I got, at least up to the first half, because that's all I played, were in the same spot at the same rate. It feels like the drops are not actually random. Even random enemy drops, not stuff I got in chests, even random enemy drops were happening in the same spot for the same armor sets. It all seems like a trick to lull a player that might typically be like, I recommended this to a good friend of mine, Nick DeSantis. Yeah. Plays Diablo and stuff like that all the time. That's his game. This would be very inviting to a player like that because of its loot style. But I don't think it's actually that kind of loot style. I think it's just presented that way.
I'd like to look that
up.
At
least to a degree. I could be wrong, but I'm telling you, all the same stuff in the first half of the game I got in the same spots from the same chests and enemies. It was very weird, but an interesting trick if it is a trick.
Yeah, no, that's a really... I had no opportunity to even think about that. That's very interesting.
Developers play tricks on us all the time.
Good for them.
All the freaking time.
The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was this mead, apparently, because I can't speak. Wow, this mead is so strong.
It is. We're going to have more in a minute.
But yeah, Kaiser Soze, all that stuff, whatever.
Yeah. Oh, man. That was a callback.
Yeah, it was.
Oh,
I remember watching that movie as in high school.
First movie you showed me.
Really?
Yeah.
And well,
Yeah, I think it was like the weekend after I met you. You're like, you should come over and watch Usual Suspects.
yeah, and for me, The Usual Suspects is a movie that I look back on less. It's still a great movie. I think it's great. It's one I like showing people. Look on it less fun. I think it's not as smart as I thought it was in high school. It's not as
No, you're
well
just
written.
smarter. Like, you can show that to plenty of people. And, like showing Fight Club to most people
I think Fight
who
Club
don't watch movies like us.
I think Fight Club holds up better than Usual Suspects.
Maybe, but in a similar way.
I agree.
I don't think it's
Donnie
not
Darko.
as smart. Yeah. I watched Donnie Darko recently enough. It's fine.
I still like Donnie Darko.
Like
quite
2
a bit.
years ago. I watched it very recently.
I like Donnie Darko as a high school movie. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It's not the heady stuff I don't care about anymore. It's the weird Frank stuff.
God,
And
we were obsessed with that.
I loved
What
it so
losers.
much. But I think that's not even a loser thing. I think those are movies that draw you in. They get you stoked. And then when you know more and you watch more, you look back and you're like, you have two responses. Either that movie's trash, can't believe I ever liked it, or that movie did its job. And I respect
Good point.
it a lot.
And I'm not saying the movie's bad when I call us losers for liking it. But you're right. There's not that the movie is a coming of age movie, but there are pieces of media that help people who like to think like us come of age.
Yeah, no, I totally agree.
And I think those three movies you just mentioned are that to it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I'd never calcified it like that, but that's a great point. Yeah. Oh man, I'm really grateful for those movies.
Yeah, definitely.
And dude, freaking like Kevin Pollak in Usual Suspects, just they pull a comedian into playing a crime thriller. He's great.
Yeah, good stuff, man.
Yeah, man, agreed.
God of War. Anything else that you want to add there?
No,
Combat story.
I haven't replayed it since, but I still love it. Still one of my favorites. They
Looking
really
forward
did
to the
something
sequel.
special.
I'm glad we played it now. Got both of these out of the way. I suspect Hellblade 2 will be much more of a sequel in the typical sense than God of War Ragnarok
agreed.
will. People are already calling it as basically just DLC. Whatever.
I'm happy it's happening.
Yes, absolutely. I want to see the story through to the end. And even if it does just look like DLC, that's fine.
I'll take
That's
it.
fine. It's going to be good. But I'm glad we got them out of the way now, so we're not tired of them. Playing them back to back. I think 50 hours of God of War, especially because it's very apparent Ragnarok is not going to be doing much else different. I'm very happy I'm not playing them back to back. I
Agreed.
would probably dislike God of War or Ragnarok immensely if I played them back to back. So I don't have much else to add. I think both of these games are fantastic. You should absolutely play them for very different reasons. Very different reasons. And watch Northman as well. If you're into that sort of thing, it's brutal. Absolutely brutal. And it takes on a different weight than most epics you would see. The two epics we've had recently have been the Northman, and the Green Knight,
Which I haven't seen.
Which is a very different. That's a fantasy epic.
I've not seen it.
But
And I'm actually finishing. I've never finished. I'm finishing the poem now so that I can watch it. Yeah.
I'll come watch it. I've got the 4K.
Really?
Blu-ray,
We'll watch it. We'll watch it because the poem is one of my favorites, which I've never finished. And because I read some in college. And I'm finishing it now, actually, just because I'm actually doing a little short story and stuff and thinking about Gawain a lot. So I'm finishing the story. I actually restarted it. It's such a good poem, dude. It's so good. The whole scene of, like, I don't know if this is in the movie, but the whole scene of, like, him cutting off the Green Knight's head and the Green Knight just goes and picks his own head back up. I don't know if
That's there.
It's so good.
All of the movie.
It was written in 1400.
That's cool.
This guy knows what's cool.
Indeed. You will probably like it more than most people. I certainly do. I love it for different reasons than you do. I'm fine watching a movie. I have seen Stalker 5 times. I'm fine watching a movie that is about nothing, doesn't go anywhere, and is just about the visuals. This movie's pretty much that.
Green
And
Knight.
why it flopped.
Green Knight.
Yes. The
Because it's it's an internal story. Like, what is a quest? What is a knight? What is a person? Like, that's kind of what it's doing.
Yes.
Very philosophical. Yeah.
Very introspective.
The poem's very similar in that sense. It's very much what it's about.
And you'll never see anything like the movie.
I'm very excited then.
It's the most beautiful movie I've ever seen.
That's a statement.
Now, there's different kinds of beauty, I think. When we're talking about this, the vistas, the grandeur, nothing I've seen like it. Now there's, when you're just talking about like the beauty of human emotion and stuff like that. No, I'm talking about visual beauty.
Visual beauty.
This is top of its class. Nothing else like it.
I can't wait. Can't wait.
Watching it on your giant television in 4K needs to happen.
Okay, I'll finish it as soon as I can. I also need to finish Wheel of Time. I keep putting off finishing Memory of Life.
You know what we're going to finish soon, though?
Tell me.
This episode.
Yes.
The Game Informer, not the Game Informer podcast.
This Made podcast.
This Made podcast. Correct.
Well, they put in the show. Oh my god.
No, the
is this alcohol?
Is this even allowed? The Unpatched Gaming Podcast. We are also, not too soon, but eventually going to finish the Metal Gear Solid series.
Yes.
Next episode will be Metal Gear Solid 3.
The fan favorite.
Really, that's exciting. I am very excited to play this game. I'm glad.
I have a question.
Yeah?
Which one are you most excited to play?
Take a guess.
I mean, it's 3 or 5. It's 5.
It's 4.
No, it's not. Dude, it's 4. I'm so happy to hear that.
I am becoming you.
Yes.
I am recently super interested in playing Final Fantasy 13 for some reason. For some god-forsaken reason. Metal Gear Solid 4 is the one I'm most excited about. What is this I am becoming?
You become what you hate.
Correct.
But yeah, great episode, I think, guys. It's really good to have you here. Tyler, why don't you wrap us on up?
I want to thank you for sticking around. It was a bit of a jumbled episode for sure.
In a good way.
It was good mead, bro. I'm gonna have some more though.
We play Hellblade.
But folks, we want to thank you for joining us, for listening to the end here. I want to invite you to our Patreon, our Discord server, a small budding community of like-minded folks. We love video games. We love sharing. You can access that through the $2 tier on our Patreon page. And just come hang out. Come tell us why Hellblade is problematic. Which I actually don't think that's an argument. I can just see that being an argument. Tell us why God of War is Daddy Simulator 2018.
Yeah, or why it sucks and why God of War 1 is the best in the series, because that would be a really interesting
get out
argument.
of here. Don't even...
No, I want to hear you. Please come.
Nah.
No, now if you do say Chains of Olympus, you can't leave.
Sure.
That is honestly, I think I'd put that in top 10 worst games I've ever played.
Wow.
I think Chains of Olympus is that bad.
I think Assassin's Creed Revelations is that bad.
Really? I haven't played it.
Yep.
We need to, when are we going to do that?
2029?
I really want to do it for real, though.
No, I do as well. That's why we bought them all.
Yeah, I'm almost there.
All.
The one I'm most excited for
I would have gotten
is
them on Xbox.
The one I'm most excited for is Unity.
Unity and probably 4 for me. Revisiting 2, Assassin's Creed 2 will be great.
Scared for that.
I'm scared. A buddy at work that comes into the office and we chat a bunch. He's playing it right now. He picked up the Ezio trilogy recently. That's one of the few games he's slowly going through, and liked all of the recent ones a lot. Finds it very interesting. Likes to see where the series came from.
I can sympathize.
I'm excited about 1.
Me too.
Because it's so even from 2. Like 2 was the direction that it went for a long time.
Yeah, pre-Origins era Assassin's Creed.
Yeah, there were some changes there, but it all comes from 2. Assassin's Creed 1's different. I'd like to revisit 1.
I'm bummed it's not on PS4 or Xbox One.
Yeah,
like,
I wonder if there was some licensing stuff. I wonder if there was some sort of ownership that the original creator maintained. I'm not sure, but yeah, they have basically forgotten it. I think the only place... Can you get it on Uplay? I feel like the only place you can get it on PC is Good Old Games. But I could be wrong there. Though when we play 4, just to be devil's advocate here, I might play Rogue. I know you're going to play 4, right?
That's fine. Yeah, we can do that.
I think I'd prefer to play 4, but that would be an interesting discussion. Because 4, I mean, Rogue is just more 4. So it might even be better 4. Like, it might not be a particularly good Assassin's Creed game, because a lot of people focus on the narrative, but I do wonder if it's just better 4. We'll see. But anyway, we've got a lot lined up. Right now, we are focused on a few different things here and there, but our big series for the first half of the year is Metal Gear Solid and Mass Effect. So we'll be venturing through those. If you'd like to hear us chat about that more on our Discord server, maybe find some games to play, then come join us. Again, that $2 tier on Patreon.
Yeah, and we're playing other stuff too. We'd love for you to play. I know you're playing Temtem. Someone to play Temtem with Tyler.
Oh, you are?
No, you are.
Oh,
yeah,
I thought you said you were going to play Temtem with me.
No. I'm playing Skyward Sword. I'd love to have someone to talk to about Skyward Sword.
Yeah.
I can see why it was problematic, but I'm in love with it. It's a great game. I'd love to talk about that.
Yeah, next entry on the Monster Tamer series will be next episode as well. I'll be finishing off Temtem and talking about a small handful of strictly Pokemon clones. And then we'll be venturing into the things that expand the genre. These expand the Pokemon formula, the ones I'm going to talk about, but they don't expand the genre. So I'm focused on Pokemon clones next time, Temtem included. Come check us out. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.